Hello everyone, and welcome to Earth Archives. Welcome to a magnificent hall where music and history intertwine. Today, we will step into 17th century France and uncover the legendary journey of a young musical genius from Florence, Italy, Jean-Baptiste Lully, who transformed from a street performer into the father of French opera. This is a symphony of art, politics, and power. A grand story of dancing alongside the Sun King, Louis XIV, under the glittering dome of the Palace of Versailles. If you love music history or are curious about Baroque music and French court culture, you definitely can't miss this article. Follow us now as we enter Lully's musical universe and experience the golden age of France, where power and glory were composed in notes. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel and leave us a comment telling us, which of Lully's works is your favorite? Or what do you think about his collaboration with Molière? Feel free to share this with friends interested in classical music and history. Travel back to 17th century France, and what unfolds before your eyes feels like a dreamlike feast. The sky is bathed in golden light, the dome of the Palace of Versailles gleams with a mirror-like splendor, and noblemen and noblewomen, adorned in intricate embroidery and flowing lace, gracefully dance through the palace gardens. Against this magnificent backdrop, a young musician from Florence, Italy, quietly reshapes the destiny of French musical history. He is Jean-Baptiste Lully, a musical genius not only gifted in composition, but also endowed with extraordinary dramatic sensibility and political acumen, later honored as the father of French opera. Lully's life was not just a musical legend. It was an epic intertwined with royal power. In an era when the halls of Versailles were brightly lit and music never ceased, he composed melodies not only for the court, but also crafted a soundscape that forged a national identity for France. Every opera, every ballet, every ensemble he created was like a crown woven from musical notes, placed upon the head of Louis XIV, shining with the radiance of the Sun King. Lully's music was never just about sounding beautiful. He had a deep understanding of the language of drama and the psychology of the audience, knowing exactly when to let the strings gently unfold, when dancers should spin and wave their sleeves, and how to use a passionate, powerful orchestral passage to heighten the tension of a court conspiracy. Unlike other composers who merely pursued melodic brilliance, his goal was to create a distinctly French musical form. He rejected the overly ornate, loosely structured style of Italian opera, insisting instead on clear storytelling, dignified melodies, and precise rhythms. His collaboration with the great playwright Molière perfectly embodied this creative philosophy. They co-created the Comédie Ballet, a seamless blend of dialogue, dance, and music that introduced French audiences to a new way of experiencing musical theater, playful, yet deeply moving. Lully, the musical genius who would later captivate the entire French court, actually started from very humble beginnings. Born Giovanni Battista Lully on November 28, 1632, into an ordinary family in Florence, Italy, his father was a mill worker, and their living conditions were modest. Yet, from this unassuming background emerged a figure who would go on to transform the course of European musical history. From a young age, Lully showed an extraordinary passion for music. While receiving his basic education at the church, he was exposed to guitar, violin, and vocal training. Though still a child, he already mastered playing various instruments. Not only could he discern the nuances in music, but he could also improvise, astonishing those around him with his keen sense of pitch and rhythm. While many children his age were still playing in the dirt, he was already attempting to mimic the solemn sacred music from the church, even creating his own melodies to hum. A turning point came when he was 14 years old. During a carnival in Italy, young Lully dressed as a clown, performing street theater while playing the violin, energetically captivating the audience. It was during this impromptu performance that he caught the attention of a French nobleman, Roger de Lorraine, son of the Duke of Guise. At the time, Roger was preparing to return to France and was looking for a young person who spoke Italian and understood music to accompany his niece in learning language and culture. Lully's lively talent and outgoing performance style immediately caught his eye. This chance encounter was like a key modulation in the symphony of fate, taking the young Lully from the marketplace stages of Florence to the very heart of the art world, Paris, France. Roger was set to return to France and needed a servant who could communicate in Italian with his niece, and Marie-Louise de Montpensier. Thus, he brought this gifted and linguistically skilled boy into the world of court life. When Lully first arrived in Paris, he was merely an inconspicuous page boy, responsible for daily chores and assisting Mademoiselle with her language lessons. However, his natural intelligence and keen observation fueled a strong curiosity and desire to learn about everything related to music around him. Being immersed in the rich cultural and artistic environment of the court was like opening the door to a vast treasure trove of knowledge for Lully. At Mademoiselle's residence, various literary salons and private concerts were frequently held, attended by some of the finest musicians and artists in France at the time. Although Lully's status was lowly, his position allowed him to listen closely to masterful performances, observe rehearsals, and learn quietly in the background. Before long, he became acquainted with these musicians and even received guidance, deepening his understanding of composition and music theory. During this period, his musical talent matured rapidly. He not only became familiar with the melodies and harmonic language of Italy, but also developed a strong interest in the distinctive royal style of French court music. This style emphasized elegance, restraint, and order, a stark contrast to the passionate and flamboyant nature of Italian music, which felt refreshingly new to Lully. He began experimenting with blending these two styles, creating a unique musical vocabulary all his own. Not only that, Lully was also introduced, for the first time, to the French court's highly esteemed ballet. At that time, court ballet was more than just a form of dance. It was an artistic language used by the king to display power and majesty. Lully developed a deep interest in the relationship between dance and music, and began studying how rhythm and melody could serve the choreography and movements. This laid a solid foundation for his future reputation as a master of ballet music design. Soon, at just 20 years old, Lully's extraordinary talent and diligent learning allowed him to make a dazzling transformation from a mere page boy to the exclusive composer in Mademoiselle Anne's court. This was not only a huge leap in status, but also a pivotal turning point in his fate. It's important to note that Anne Marie-Louise de Montpensier was no ordinary noblewoman. She was a prominent grand princess in the French royal family, and her cousin was none other than the future Sun King, Louis XIV. Earning the favor and trust of Mademoiselle, and meant that Lully's music had begun to gain recognition among the highest circles. He was no longer composing merely for family gatherings or private salons, but was now creating music for actual court events, directly entering the core of royal culture. In this dazzling world of grandeur and ceremony, what Lully witnessed was not just luxurious costumes and opulent settings, but the intense and fascinating intertwining of music and politics, art and power. He learned how to compose musical passages that could both please the king and conform to the strict court ceremonies, how to find creative space within limitations and intricate protocols, and how to maintain delicate balances and cooperation among different nobles. These skills, seemingly non-musical, later became key to his long-term success and prominence at court. During this period, he not only composed many well-received small dance pieces and court interludes, but also grew increasingly familiar with the compositional styles of court ballet, religious music, and festive ceremonies. He keenly realized that music at court was not just an art form, but a tool to symbolize royal authority and reinforce the king's sacred image. Gradually, he learned how to make his music become that very voice of power. Lully's success in Mademoiselle Anne's court undoubtedly paved a smooth path for his later entry into the royal inner circle. Through this connection, he was introduced to more courtiers and even the king himself, taking part in an increasing number of royal musical productions. Every performance opportunity and noble gathering he attended became an important stage for showcasing his talent and building his reputation. In 1652, as political turmoil swept through France and Mademoiselle, and was exiled following the failure of the Fronde Rebellion, the once lively court suddenly grew quiet. For Lully, this seemed like a sudden twist of fate, but in reality, it marked a fresh new beginning for his musical career. That very year, he was recruited into King Louis XIV's orchestra, officially joining the Royal Musical Ensemble and becoming part of the Sun King's inner circle, a step that would push him from the fringes of the court to the very center of history. Soon, Lully took on his first major royal production, Le Ballet Royal de la Nuit, the Royal Ballet of the Night. This was not just an ordinary ballet, but a significant event blending politics and art. The entire performance lasted through the night, about 13 hours, encompassing music, dance, drama, and visual spectacle, serving as a comprehensive showcase of the artistic power of the French court. The most striking moment was the debut of the then 14-year-old Louis XIV as the sun god Apollo. This role was not merely an artistic choice, but a carefully crafted political symbol. Through the image of Apollo, the young king not only displayed his dance skills and artistic refinement, but also conveyed a powerful message, that he would embody light and order, becoming the Sun King, who could dispel darkness and rule over the universe. Behind this dramatic performance, Lully's music was the vital force that transformed this symbolism into deep emotional impact. Lully composed several musical pieces for the performance that were richly dramatic and lavish in style, with the music shifting between solemnity and lightheartedness, perfectly enhancing the overall narrative atmosphere. He skillfully employed the French style of string music and dance rhythms, successfully elevating the work to artistic and political heights. His music was no longer just background sound, but became the core language, guiding the stage's tempo and shaping the king's image. The unprecedented success of Le Ballet Royal de la Nuit earned the young Louis XIV's deep favor for Lully. The king was not only moved by his music, but also recognized Lully's unique ability to seamlessly blend art, theater, and power. Soon after that night's event, Lully was appointed conductor of the Royal Violin Orchestra, a highly influential position in French musical circles, and a symbol that Lully had officially entered the core of royal musical authority. This violin ensemble, Les 24 Violons du Roi, the 24 violins of the king, was no ordinary orchestra. It was a prestigious royal music institution dedicated solely to serving the court and performing exclusively for the royal family, representing the highest honor and technical standard in musical arts. After taking up the baton, Lully not only elevated the overall level of the orchestra, but also infused Italian musical elements into the French style, enriching its character and expressive power. His music combined elegance with strength, order with passion, perfectly aligning with Louis XIV's artistic vision of the perfect monarchy. In 1659, Lully premiered his first court ballet opera, marking not just a creative milestone, but a powerful declaration of artistic authority. His music officially became the core element of court ceremonies. From weddings and celebrations to religious events and royal festivities, nearly all were orchestrated by Lully himself. This musical genius from Italy had thoroughly rooted himself in France, becoming an indispensable artistic soul by the king's side. During this period, he began collaborating with another giant who would change French cultural history, Molière, one of France's greatest playwrights. Though their personalities were vastly different, one loved comedic satire, the other favored rigorous structure. One was lively and witty, the other meticulous and precise. It was precisely this contrast that sparked artistic brilliance. Molière's plays excelled in humor and wit, adept at portraying human contradictions and social absurdities, while Lully skillfully integrated these comedic elements with ballet and singing to create a unique art form known as the comedy ballet. This innovative form broke away from the traditional operatic focus on pure lyricism and tragedy, enriching the stage with vivid visual and auditory effects, tightening the dramatic pace, and offering audiences a series of light-hearted yet captivating artistic feasts. In the comedy ballet, music was no longer just background accompaniment, but became intricately woven together with dance, dialogue, and performance. Lully skillfully used melody and rhythm to enhance character development and plot twists, infusing each scene with dramatic tension and emotional impact. As ballet dancers moved gracefully across the stage, the singing and music carried the emotional narrative, creating a multisensory performance that made audiences feel as if they were immersed in a vibrant, lively dream. Lully's collaborations with Molière, works such as A Forced Marriage, The Love Doctor, and Georges Dandin, not only sparked enthusiasm within the Parisian court, but also deeply influenced the future development of French opera. These productions cleverly employed exaggerated characters and plots, paired with Lully's meticulously arranged music and choreography, creating performances that were both humorous and artistically moving, successfully captivating audiences from all social classes. More importantly, the comedy ballet broke down the traditional divisions between music, dance, and drama on stage, achieving a perfect fusion of multiple art forms. It not only ushered in a new era for French opera, but also rapidly expanded France's cultural influence across the European continent. This integration injected vitality and innovation into French music and theater, making it a beloved artistic form enjoyed by both the court and the general public. Lully's talent was not only reflected in his musical creativity, but also in his innovations in musical organization and management strategies, which made him an undeniable giant in the French music scene. During his collaboration with Molière, Lully keenly perceived that French audiences' demands for dramatic pacing differed from the slow and ornate style typical of Italian opera. He decisively adopted a faster narrative pace, making the plots tighter and more lively. This rhythmic innovation catered to the entertainment expectations of both the French court and the urban middle class, making French opera more appealing and modern. However, Lully's success was not solely due to his artistic talent. His political savvy and business acumen were equally formidable behind the scenes. In 1669, Lully was granted the exclusive privilege to operate the Paris Opera, Académie Royale de Musique, which itself was a huge source of power and wealth. But he was not content with this alone. He actively lobbied King Louis XIV to enact a series of strict laws that prohibited anyone from performing a full musical drama anywhere in France without his permission. This decree essentially gave Lully a monopoly over the French opera market, making him not only an innovator in the arts, but also the gatekeeper of French opera. This monopolistic position allowed Lully to control the entire French musical theater market, suppress many potential competitors, and ensure the priority staging and widespread dissemination of his own works. Although such a practice might be controversial from the perspective of artistic freedom, it is undeniable that this centralized management helped French opera develop a unique and unified style, securing its significant place in the history of European music. Lully's influence extended far beyond artistic creation. His political acumen was equally remarkable. Leveraging his close relationship with Louis XIV and the privileges he enjoyed, he successfully built an unshakable musical empire, firmly controlling the entire French music scene. This power not only secured him an unparalleled status in the arts, but also amassed great wealth, making him one of the most influential figures in France at the time. However, the high concentration of power also brought negative consequences. Lully used his monopoly to suppress competitors, forcing many talented musicians to remain in his shadow and preventing them from fully showcasing their abilities. Numerous potential geniuses lost opportunities to express themselves and develop their art because they could not overcome the barriers Lully had set. Although this monopoly temporarily promoted the unification and development of French opera, in the long run, it also caused the French music world to become somewhat singular and insular. Despite the turbulent games of politics and power unfolding behind the scenes, Lully's musical talent and creative achievements continued to shine brilliantly. In 1681, this musical master reached the pinnacle of his life. King Louis XIV of France personally bestowed upon him a noble title, granting him the name Monsieur de Lully. This was not only the highest recognition of his musical genius, but also symbolized his formal acceptance as a cultural authority in France. That year, Lully and his wife had 10 children, and their family life appeared happy and fulfilled. However, private scandals behind the curtain had yet to subside. In 1685, a court scandal cast a shadow over Lully's reputation. He became involved in an affair with a woman at court. When the king learned of this, Lully's trust in the eyes of Louis XIV gradually waned, and he was increasingly distanced. Such a situation was a heavy blow for a once favored courtier, causing his standing at court to diminish. Yet Lully did not stop moving forward. He continued to devote himself to musical creation, maintaining his passion and dedication to art, and kept shining brightly on the stage of French music. In 1687, fate dealt a heavy blow to Lully's life. During a rehearsal, he accidentally struck his own toe with the conductor's staff he used to tap the floor. What seemed like a minor injury soon developed into a serious infection. Given the limited medical conditions of the time, doctors advised amputation to prevent the infection from spreading, but Lully, proud of his identity as a dancer, refused the operation. The infection rapidly worsened and ultimately claimed the life of this great composer at the age of only 55. Lully, the towering musical genius of the 17th century, was not only the founder of French opera, but also a master who perfectly blended the lavish techniques of Italian opera with France's unique ballet and comedic performances. His innovations enriched the operatic form and established the distinctive style of French opera, becoming a model for countless musicians in later generations. Lully's works profoundly influenced the entire European music scene. Whether in the beauty of his melodies or the restraint of his rhythms, they reveal his exceptional musical talent and precise artistic control. Even during the turbulent times of the French Revolution a century later, Lully's music continued to be performed frequently, serving as a vital symbol that united national spirit and cultural confidence. This enduring vitality across eras not only attests to the classic status of his works, but also reflects the deep respect the French people hold for this cultural icon. Whether in the grandeur of courtly balls or in modern concert halls, his melodies still resonate, an inheritance of music and an eternal continuation of the artistic spirit. Today, symphony orchestras and opera houses worldwide continue to perform Lully's works, bringing his creativity and emotions to new audiences. From solemn religious compositions to opera excerpts filled with dramatic tension, Lully's music consistently shines brilliantly on modern stages. His influence transcends time and space, inspiring countless music lovers and artists alike, proving his immortal artistic value and his profound contribution to the history of world music. If you're curious about the story of the great musical master Lully, you definitely shouldn't miss the film The King's Dance. This movie delicately portrays the intricate and fiery relationship between Louis XIV, Lully, and the playwright Molière. One memorable scene features a young Lully presenting a pair of dance shoes to Louis XIV. The king half-jokingly says, "If these shoes make me fall, I'll send you back to Italy." Confidently, Lully replies, "You won't fall." And as it turns out, Louis XIV gracefully maintains his balance, an affirmation of Lully's talent and a symbol of the unbreakable collaboration and trust between them. Through this film, we not only get a glimpse of the grandeur and splendor of the 17th century French court, but also gain deep insight into how Lully used his music and wisdom to influence generations, elevating French art to its peak. Lully's story is a legend of talent, perseverance, and innovation. His music is a dazzling jewel of French culture shining on the world stage. Let us remember this great musician, allowing Lully's melodies to continue flowing through the river of time, and may his artistic spirit forever inspire future generations. France shines more brilliantly because of him. The world becomes richer and more colorful because of his legacy. From the bustling markets of Florence to the magnificent courts of Versailles, Lully's musical touch not only transformed the form of French opera, but also created a uniquely French cultural voice. His life was like a brilliant and tension-filled symphony, crossing the boundaries of art and power, propelling French music to the very center of the European stage. Even today, his works continue to be performed worldwide, standing as one of the most emblematic sounds of the Baroque era. Are you moved by the story of this legendary figure? If you want to dive deeper into the intricate relationship and artistic synergy between Lully, Louis XIV, and Molière, we highly recommend watching the classic film Le Roi Danse, The King's Dance. It vividly recreates the dazzling court life and the soaring music of that era. If you enjoyed this content, please don't hesitate to show your support. Subscribe to us for more stories where music and history intertwine. Leave a comment to share your thoughts and favorite works by Lully. And be sure to share this with friends who also love classical music and cultural arts.